What's going on, everyone? So this season and just the future of Keldon Johnson on the San Antonio Spurs, it's going to be very interesting, right? I mean, Keldon Johnson's 24 years old, still plenty of room for growth, potential, upside. It's a guy that's already, 16 points per game, get you, a handful of rebounds, handful of assists, do a little bit of everything out there. Not really a great defensive guy. Definitely more of a vacuum scorer. He's probably best off the bench as that sixth man or on a team that just needs a bucket getter, a guy that go get you, 20 plus a night. He can kind of be a little one-dimensional at times, get a little tunnel vision, right? Kind of feels himself a little bit. You just see him start jacking up, not the best shots and shot selection, but he is a good quality player in this league that I do think right team, right role, right situation could be a real impact. Problem is that with the San Antonio Spurs, right? San Antonio has essentially moved him to full-time off the bench in that six-man role. They were very active in trying to trade him this offseason. Now, they're not going to just trade him for nothing. They're not just going to unload him for the sake of unloading him. But if they can find a deal that maybe makes more sense or solves a position of need or something, then I do think Keldon Johnson will be on his way out. But the question is, if they're not able to trade him, where does he fit in with this team this year, right? And I mean that seriously, right? So, again, let's look at last season as kind of our template. Last season, he averaged 29.5 minutes per game, which he was down 3 minutes from the previous season. So again, he only started in 27 of the 69 games in which he played. His shot attempts went down from 12.5 to 17.7, although his field goal percentage was still 45%, which is good. He went from 5.3 field goal or 3-point attempts per game from 6.5 the previous year, but shot a better percentage, 34.6 compared to 32.9. He was 53% last season on 7.2 attempts from 2-point range compared to 11.2 on 52.3%. EFG last year of 52.7 compared to 51.2 the year prior. Averaged 22 points 2 seasons ago, where last season he averaged 15.7, so 16 points per game. Rebounds were roughly the same, 5.5 this season, 5 exactly the previous year. Assists were 2.8 last season, 2.9 the previous year, 0.07 last 2 years in steals, 0.03 last 2 years in blocks. So, again, basically the same player the last 2 years, only last year his minutes, role, and production and opportunity went down. Well, with the newly acquired Harrison Barnes, could he maybe kind of mold and shape a way in which Keldon Johnson can maybe be a more valuable piece beyond just the scorer, right? We all know Keldon Johnson can score the basketball, right? Pop knows, Spurs know. They all know what he's capable of doing. But it's all the other little things. It's playing a role. It's understanding, you have Devin Vassell and now Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama, and you're a part of the team rather than, a couple years prior, you had the green light. You were kind of the guy at points, right? So it's kind of like, just go ahead. You and Vassell take 20 shots a game. Who cares, right? But now you're in a different area, right? Now you got Victor. Now you got Chris Paul. You got Harrison Barnes. So the hope is that Harrison can kind of really hone and help kind of contain Keldon Johnson a little bit, right? Keep him focused, keep him and show him how to play a specific role, how to operate on both sides of the basketball, how to be a real small forward for the San Antonio Spurs, right? I really do genuinely believe that Harrison Barnes can really go a long way for Keldon Johnson, right? I've talked a lot about just, Chris Paul and his impact with like Stephon Castle and Trey Jones and, even Devin Vassell and also even Keldon Johnson, that I do think Chris Paul can kind of have an impact on a little bit of everybody, right? Victor Wembanyama, all that stuff, be an extension of the coach. But Harrison Barnes, I do think, may be able to make Keldon Johnson a real key contributor with this team, and maybe even eventually step into that Harrison Barnes role if he can get Keldon Johnson to kind of buy in, particularly on both sides of the basketball, and not just at times kind of seem like a guy that wants to be the guy, right? And look, maybe that's not in the cards for Keldon Johnson. That could also be the case too, right? We've seen plenty of players that they're not really able to conform to the role in which a team wants you to operate, and they or they want to be the guy, they want to prove themselves. Keldon Johnson might be looking at it as like, hey, I'm a bucket getter on the right team and the right opportunity, right role. I can go be a 25 point a game scorer, right? On good efficiency. Maybe not 3-point range. 3-point range, he had his struggles, but I can be a legit scoring option on the right team and in the right environment and on the right place, right? Like, so that might not even be in the cards for Keldon Johnson, but hopefully a veteran in the form of a Harrison Barnes can kind of get him focused. Kind of go, hey man, like look, no matter where you go, yes, you can score the basketball, but what else can you do? Other teams are going to want you to do these other things. If you want the longevity in this league, right, then, these are the kind of ways you need to go about it. These kind of ways you want to approach it. If you want to win championships, if you want to do less stuff. Remember, Harrison Barnes was a huge part of that Warriors championship, that original championship. He hit big shots, played a huge role for them, right? So he's a guy that understands it. He gets it. He's a guy that probably looked at it the same way when he was young of like, dude, I can go get 20 plus, right? But he really bought into playing a role everywhere he's been. And it's helped him throughout his career. So the other side of things, though, is like how does Keldon Johnson play this season and not be a 20-minute a game guy? Like I said, you already saw his minutes cut down last season. Now you have Harrison Barnes. Now you have Chris Paul. Now you have Stephon Castle. Now you have, another year of, Devin Vassell and Victor Wembanyama kind of being big key fixtures, right? Where does Keldon Johnson even fit into all of this? Now, obviously, look, Stephon Castle, they want to mold and have him kind of play the point guard position, right? Have him kind of be that combo guard, that two, he can play the two, play the point, right? Look at Keldon Johnson and go, okay, well, Keldon Johnson, he's going to be the backup 3. Okay, but you can also run Stephon Castle at the 3. You can also run, even Vassell at times at 3 if you needed to. Right? Castle being 6'6", right? Like, he has that versatility to essentially play 1 through 3. Right? Like, and Keldon Johnson, even if he does, let's say he does get the minutes. Say he does play, 25 minutes a game, right? 30 minutes a game, whatever, right? I mean, his shot attempts, again, kind of dropped in half. How many attempts is he going to get with Chris Paul, with Harrison Barnes, with Stephon Castle? I mean, his shot attempts went down before you added Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, who are 2 veteran guys that are going to play big roles, that are going to get big minutes, that are going to get their shot attempts, that are going to play their role. Oh, and you add in Stephon Castle, who again is going to get his attempts and his opportunities and where does Keldon Johnson fit into all this? Where does he even get an opportunity to play a role, if at all? Right? Like, that's a real question. Because again, remember, going over the breakdowns here, he went from 17.7 field goal attempts per game to 12.5. He got 5 fewer field goal attempts last season. Now you just added 3 new guys that are all going to get attempts, that are all going to have the ball at times, that are all going to be making plays and doing things. Like, you don't think that he's going to drop again? I mean, maybe not. But I could see him being around, dropping another 5 attempts per game potentially. Is Keldon Johnson really going to be able to be a 15-point-a-game guy again? Maybe. I think he's going to have to be more efficient. But it just really does. It begs the question of, where does Keldon Johnson even fit in in all of this? Where does Kelvin Johnson even play a role? Which is probably why the Spurs have been so active in trying to trade him. Because they're probably looking at it too as like, we're like, how do we fit Keldon Johnson in? We got Harrison Barnes for the next few years. We got, Chris Paul at least next year, but I think he's going to be longer. And Stephon Castle, we want to mold and develop him and put him in a position to, be a real star and fixture on this team at some point, right? Like Keldon Johnson, at best case, is probably never going to be more than your fourth or fifth option, right? Even if he moves back into the starting unit at some point. You're always going to have Victor Wembanyama, who's going to be your number one guy. Devin Vassell, Stephon Castle. Those three guys are your three main guys going forward, right? That's your point guard, shooting guard, and center. Or, maybe potentially power forward at some point. We'll see. But most likely center, point guard, shooting guard. You have that locked up. You have a hole at the 4, in my opinion. You have a hole at the 3. Not right now because you got Harrison Barnes, but, future-wise later on down the road. Maybe it's Harrison Ingram. Maybe it's Keldon Johnson. But Keldon Johnson's going to have to buy into a specific role, which I don't know if he's going to be willing to do that. Is he going to be willing to accept that role? Which I wouldn't blame him. Again, he's not that long removed from being a 22-point-a-game guy. He's looking at it as like, man, I can score with the best of them. I'm a bucket getter. Right? I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly. For those that get the reference. I don't know. It's interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how does this all kind of play out. How does this work with Keldon Johnson in the San Antonio Spurs? If at all. I mean, it's always possible it doesn't work. It's always possible it just, it doesn't go the way that they have hope. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass the question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you have concerns with Keldon Johnson? Do you think he'll fit? Do you think he won't fit? Do you think, it's inevitable, they got to trade him? Have a feel whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Now subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.